Do not give in to fear. We are fearless. This is not the time to be afraid. This is a time to stand up and fight back and to resist any temptation for them to divide us. We're in this together. The rule of law is on our side, and the one institution that has stood by our side is the courts. We will not give in, not give up. We will not capitulate. We will not bow. We will not bend. We will survive.
The Rachel Maddow Show starts right now. Hi, Rachel.
Hey, you guys. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. And thanks to you at home for joining us here this hour. Really happy to have you here. Telling people not to go didn't work. Warning people not to go didn't work. Trying to intimidate people not to go, that definitely didn't work. Even a good faith, earnest, here's a really good reason not to go, kind of cajoling, that did not work either. Turns out we learned definitively in these past few days that people want to protest against this president a lot. And no matter what you tell them, they are going to do it. And a lot of people have been wrong about that, including me. I sat here last week, all earnest and serious, telling you, as if it was true, that there definitely was going to be no protest in Washington, D.C. this weekend, that protesters would be everywhere else in the country, but they definitely wouldn't be in Washington, D.C. Boy, I was wrong. The No Kings protest organizers had in fact said no, they were not going to protest in Washington. They were going to protest everywhere else but there. But plenty of people protested there in very large numbers. And it wasn't just the No Kings organizers who were saying, oh, we're not going to D.C., don't go to D.C. You might remember last week, Trump tried to threaten people against protesting in Washington this weekend. He said last week that if anybody sort of, dared show up to protest against his big birthday military parade, they'd be met with big and very heavy force, trying to intimidate people into not protesting. Turns out that didn't work. Regular Americans said, you know what? We're not listening to any of you. We're Americans and we have the right to protest, and that comes from our Constitution and not from any of you. And so get out of the way. We don't care. We're protesting. Lots of people protested in Washington this weekend, and there were no problems associated with it. Protesters mostly did bug out of D.C. before the actual military parade started. The military parade itself turned out to have really thin crowds. In some places along the parade route, there was almost nobody in the stands. Everybody in the president seemed kind of, a little bored, maybe a little disappointed. I don't know. Ta-da, it just wasn't a big thing that President Trump put on for $45 million. But they got plenty of protesters when people, including me, said they wouldn't be there. You might have seen headlines last week about the Brevard County, Florida sheriff last week who called a press conference to threaten that he would sick dogs on people, and his officers would not just put people in jail, they would put people in the hospital. He literally got up at a press conference and said, "We will kill you," talking about violence he expected at any anti-Trump protests in Brevard County, Florida. After that bizarre show of intimidation from that sheriff in Brevard County, Florida, turns out people in Brevard County, Florida were not at all intimidated by what he said. As you can see from local headlines like this one, quote, "No Kings anti-Trump protests draw thousands in Brevard County in Cocoa and Palm Bay." I mean, the sheriff gets out there and says, "We will kill you." And Brevard County, Florida is like, you know what? We got a right to protest. We have a right to make protest signs of any kind, including ones that show Donald Trump in a big wig made up like Marie Antoinette, saying, "Let them eat cake." And you are not going to stop us from doing it. We are Americans. We have the right to do this. We will protest. For the most serious possible reason, people were also told not to protest, not to go to any No Kings protests in Minnesota this weekend on Saturday, after news emerged of the political assassinations of a Democratic former House Speaker and her husband, and the attempted assassination of another Democratic state legislator and his wife, and the even more terrible news on Saturday at that time that that assassin was still at large. He has since been brought into custody. But on Saturday, authorities advised everyone in Minnesota to cancel their plans to attend any protest. And that's a very different kind of thing. That is a very, very serious thing. But again, people said no. People went out and protested in Minnesota anyway, despite those warnings, actually in huge numbers. Look, this is St. Paul, Minnesota on Saturday. Look at this. Look at how many people went out and protested anyway. And it is not that people didn't know what had happened. You could tell that because a lot of the signs in the crowd were these heartbreaking signs honoring the former Democratic House Speaker in Minnesota, Melissa Hortman, and her husband, who were both killed by that assassin. And even though people were told not to protest in that state that day because the killer was literally still on the loose, apparently there was just nothing that was going to stop people from being there, from standing up, from showing up in huge numbers. And eventually state leaders, I think, realized that there was nothing that they could do to stop people from turning out. Minnesota's State Attorney General Keith Ellison decided to go himself. He spoke in St. Paul before that huge crowd. He spoke about his friendship with Speaker Hortman. He spoke about what it felt like to lose her. And he also spoke about the civil rights movement and other martyrs we have had in our country for our democracy.
We owe it to them. We have to do it. We must be there on behalf of the people of this country in this hour when a dictator who wants to be a king is trying to run over the rights of the people. We must be there. We must stand up. We must be strong. We cannot waver. We will not be intimidated. We are not scared of his jail. We are not scared of anything about this guy. We are not afraid, and we will not let fear rule the day. We will not let him weaponize fear against us. And I'm telling you now that he had his goons arrest a senator when he was just trying to ask a question. Senator Padilla, wrongfully treated. He had his other goons prosecute and charge Congresswoman McIver in New Jersey, had him arrest the mayor of New Jersey, threatened to arrest the governor of California and the mayor of Los Angeles. This is the behavior of a dictator. And the only question is, what are we going to do about it?
Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison speaking in St. Paul this weekend. I should tell you, Keith Ellison and also Senator Alex Padilla are both going to be on live tonight in this next hour on MSNBC with Lawrence O'Donnell on The Last Word. So you're going to want to see that. This hour, we're going to be speaking with Minnesota U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar. I'm sorry to say she was also reportedly on the target list for this assassin who shot these two elected Democratic legislators and their spouses this weekend. Again, that alleged assassin is now in custody. We're going to be speaking with Senator Klobuchar about what's happened in Minnesota tonight, the reaction of the people of Minnesota. I should tell you that Senator Klobuchar was also friends with the murdered House Speaker, Melissa Hortman. Senator Klobuchar had been with her just on Friday before the Speaker was killed on Saturday. So we're going to be speaking live with Senator Klobuchar in just a few minutes. In addition to those huge crowds, despite everything in Minnesota on Saturday, some of the big protests this weekend were really, really big. Huge crowds in Philadelphia, which you see here, which of course was the kind of flagship protest site for the whole country this weekend. I thought the fact that there was going to be a big protest in Philly might have meant a smaller crowd in New York because they're not too far apart, but nope, I was wrong about that too. Wrong again, Maddo. New York turned out to be huge. In the city of Chicago, protests were also absolutely massive this weekend. In Boston, the Pride Parade was also going on at the same time as the No Kings gathering, the No Kings rally and march in Boston. Even before it was done, local press was crowing that the crowd in Boston was north of 1 million people, and that would really be quite something. I don't know if it was over 1 million people, but that's what local headlines were calling it in Boston. Atlanta had a really, really big crowd. You might have seen some of the footage from Atlanta, Georgia this weekend. You might have seen this at sort of the head of the crowd. They had it spelled out, that big spelled out sign, Trump must go now. You might have also seen headlines about guys from the Proud Boys, the pro-Trump paramilitary militia group, showing up in the middle of that Atlanta anti-Trump protest. You might have seen headlines about that, but did you actually see how that turned out? I'm going to show you just a few seconds of footage here, and you'll get it immediately. It involves tubas and trombones. Just watch this for a second. You will see stuff. There's the Proud Boys, and there's the other protesters and the cops standing between them. And you'll see stuff is kind of starting to get tense. Stuff is starting to feel like maybe it's going to boil over. And then, what's that? Hey, tubas to the rescue. Watch. Now, my favorite part about this is that they're just like, this is a very relentless brass band. They just go on and on and on. They're just rocking out. And you can see like some of the Proud Boys are still trying to argue and kind of fight with people. But this brass band is unstoppable. See, like even when they take like a pause, it's just a strategic pause because they're still going. And by the end, nobody can really help themselves. By the end of it, even the Proud Boys themselves are kind of clapping along. By the very end of it, everybody's like kind of basically dancing a little bit despite themselves, which makes it hard to keep up with the fighting. Oh, well, when you're when all else fails, get yourself a trombone and a tuba and a sax player and apply liberally. Solves most problems. But the protests were literally everywhere this weekend. Trump had his little birthday thing in Washington, but then across the country, I mean, organizers and crowd counters say there were somewhere on the order of 5 million people who turned out to say whatever the opposite of happy birthday is to him. I mean, here, let's go top row to bottom row, left to right. Upper left-hand corner, starting there, that's Oklahoma City. Then Los Angeles, huge protest in Los Angeles. Then Kalamazoo, Michigan. Seattle is a really big protest in Seattle. Eugene, Oregon. Boise, Idaho, that's the left side, second row there. Look how huge it is in Boise. Then Kansas City, Missouri, that was another big one. Then Denver. Big one in Indianapolis. They've also had anti-Trump protests outside the NBA Finals in Indy. San Francisco was huge. Austin, Texas was really big. Then it's Anchorage, Alaska. As I said, Chicago, that is next. Huge anti-Trump protests in Chicago. Atlanta with the brass band world peace demonstration and really big numbers. Houston, Texas. Albany, New York. Hello, Cleveland. There's Cleveland there. Charlotte, North Carolina was a very big one. And then second from the right on the bottom row there, that's Little Rock, Arkansas. And then the lower right-hand corner there, that is Miami, Florida. And I'm as impressed by big turnout in big cities as I am by people turning out in smaller places where you would not expect it, and including, you know, some places that I have to look up how to pronounce, and you'll forgive me if I don't get them exactly right, right? Right. Protests, for example, this weekend in Augusta, Maine, also in Baltimore, Maryland, also in Bennington, Vermont. We saw protests in Charlottesville, Virginia, and in Cincinnati, Ohio, in Colony, New York. Columbia, South Carolina got a good crowd. In Dallas, Texas, it was big. We had a big group in Dallas of people dressed out of The Handmaid's Tale. We, the people, were not meant to kneel. This was Des Moines, Iowa. We had a big crowd. Durham, North Carolina had big numbers. We saw protests in Fairfield, California, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. In Freeport, Maine, they were out in the rain. At some points, the pounding rain in Freeport, Maine. This was Frisco, Colorado. Hey, taco, our country is Nacho Kingdom. Here was Golden, Colorado. Here was Greenville, South Carolina. Here was Gunnison, Colorado. Here was Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Here was Guam. Hello, Guam. Guam, the U.S. territory. At this point, the staff of the show is going to kill me. This is like me just pulling random sites out of the F and G and H part of the alphabet. I could go on. Let me put up another 20 box in the hope that this doesn't break the control room. All right, we're going to go top to bottom, left to right, 20 of them. Ready? Here we go. Put it up. Yes. St. Louis at the top left, then Phoenix, then Chattanooga, Tennessee. Then we got another view of Dallas, Texas, Grand Junction, Colorado. Next row, look how big San Diego was. Second row, left side, see that? Then Arlington, Virginia, Buffalo, New York, then Joplin, Missouri. Then there's another look there at Philly, which was so huge. Next row, it's Olympia, Washington. Another look at New York City. That big one I mentioned in Sacramento, California. Another look at St. Paul, Minnesota, with those remarkable circumstances. Then it's Portland, Oregon. Then that bottom row, Savannah, Georgia, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Milwaukee was only the biggest of 50 different simultaneous protests in the state of Wisconsin. Then Rapid City, South Dakota. Then it's Springfield, Illinois. And then in the bottom right-hand corner, that is Tampa, Florida. This one's, okay, make a smaller box. Yes, okay. This one's easier to see them one by one. These are anti-Trump protests this weekend. Upper left is Pocatello, Idaho. Tucker, Georgia, then Alton, Illinois, Concord, New Hampshire, Centennial, Colorado, Beaufort, South Carolina. And hold me back, I got a ton of them. They're infinite, honestly. Upper left, that's Alameda, California. I showed you Frisco, Colorado before with the nacho country thing. That was Frisco, Colorado. This is Frisco, Texas. Upper right, that's Rangeley, Maine. Lower level there, lower row, that's Prescott, Arizona, and York, Pennsylvania, and Asheville, North Carolina. Beautiful, resilient little Asheville, North Carolina. Oh, you think we're done? Ha! We're not done. Here's Sitka, Alaska, upper left there. Waterloo, Iowa. Newton, New Jersey. Menifee, I think is how you say it. Forgive me if that's not right. Menifee, California. Clarksville, Tennessee. Huntington, New York, again out in the pouring rain. Did you turn out to protest this weekend in Jacksonville, Alabama? If so, I see you up there in the upper left-hand corner. Hello, Jacksonville, Alabama. Same to you, Staunton, Virginia, and Montpelier, Vermont. I know some people who are up there in Montpelier, Vermont. Eagle River, Wisconsin. Statesville, North Carolina. Bremerton, Washington. This was Phoenix, Arizona. This was a mom there with her daughter. The daughter's sign says, "Leave your MAGA husband." I want to know the whole backstory, and I want to write a TV show about it. This was Austin, Texas, quoting Benjamin Franklin, I believe. Where liberty dwells, there is my country. This was Hillsborough, North Carolina. No Tyrannosaurus Rex. Tyrantos, getting in the king thing with Rex, get it? This was Lexington, Kentucky. First they came for the immigrants, and we said no. New Orleans, Louisiana had a pretty big turnout for their protests this weekend. Including this gentleman. I fought for my country at 19. Now I'm 81 and have to fight my country. This was West Palm Beach, Florida this weekend. Hey, Mar-a-Lago, aren't you nearby? West Palm Beach. This was Santa Monica, California this weekend. Stephen Miller can never come home. Santa Monica is where Stephen Miller is from. This is a group of 90-plus-year-olds in Teaneck, New Jersey, who we've seen protesting for weeks now. They were out in Teaneck this weekend. Another super senior here in Pepper Pike, Ohio. You see her sign there? In World War II, my brothers fought fascism. Now it's my turn. And on the other end of the age spectrum, here's this young man in Sequim, Washington. Not my tyrant. Not my future. This was Los Angeles, where I mentioned huge protests in Los Angeles. Members of the Russian protest punk band Pussy Riot with this sign, "It's beginning to look a lot like Russia." Essentially a message of warning from the Russian opposition. I mean, we could go on and on, right? From Truckee, California, where there is only one king, and it is definitely Elvis, to Tempe, Arizona, where they packed the overpass, no kings, to Oklahoma City. This one stuck with me. Not a paid protester, but my senators and representatives are supposed to be. No kings.
Dive into the magical world of Edwina's bedtime adventures. by Ariel Williams. Join Edwina, the little hippo with a big imagination, as she drifts off to sleep and embarks on whimsical bedtime journeys. Whether she's saving the day as a brave firefighter, caring for patients as a nurse at Sunny Valley Hospital, or exploring the wonders of the jungle, Edwina's heartwarming tales will capture the imagination of young readers and spark endless bedtime giggles. This is an electronic book. You'll need an EPUB reader or PDF reader to enjoy this whimsical tale. Get your copy today at lulubooks.com or follow the link tree in profile to get your copy and let the adventure begin.
Gas Station Diaries by Adam King is a compelling collection of fictional stories drawn from the author's experiences working at a gas station during the tumultuous year of 2020. Set in the unassuming locale of Rainbow Land, the narrative unfolds in a place where time seems to stand still, yet unexpected drama and human encounters abound. This is an electronic book. You must upload an EPUB reader or a PDF reader to enjoy this book. Get your copy today at lulubooks.com and let the story unfold.
The Baker and the Handyman's Sweet Connection. In a quaint village nestled in a picturesque valley, there stood a small house in the shape of a mushroom. This whimsical home belonged to a young boy named Jamie, barely out of high school, who had a passion for baking. Inside, his cozy kitchen was always filled with the sweet aroma of cakes, cookies, and all sorts of delightful treats. What made his creation special was that each of his cakes was shaped like tiny mushrooms, a nod to his quirky home. Jamie's baking became the talk of the town. From birthdays to celebrations, everyone in the village adored his sweets.
Get your digital copy today at lulubooks.com and experience the adventure in EPUB or PDF format. Make sure you have a compatible reader to dive into this unforgettable journey. Don't miss out, unlock the secrets, and let the story begin.
Sable's Song, A Siren's Journey to Joy. Once upon a time, in a small, worn-out town in Middle America, there lived a little child named Sable. Born into poverty, Sable's body was frail, so thin that you could see her bones, but her heart was filled with an exuberance that not even hunger could dull. Sable was awkward, with dark, deep-set eyes that sparkled with innocence and wonder. Despite being born a boy, Sable always knew she was different. Inside her lived a girl, bright and effervescent, waiting to bloom.
Get your digital copy today at lulubooks.com and experience the adventure in EPUB or PDF format. Make sure you have a compatible reader to dive into this unforgettable journey. Don't miss out, unlock the secrets, and let the story begin.
The Park of Secrets.
In the year 2060, near the heart of Florida, just a stone's throw from Disney World, stood a theme park unlike any other, a place known as the House of Secrets. It was a magical park, much like a state fair, filled with towering rides, carnival games, and parades that drew people from all over the world. But among the grand Ferris wheel and the colorful day parade, there was one attraction that outshined them all, the Parade Princess, a mesmerizing mermaid named Kenya. Kenya was a sight to behold. At 22 years old, fresh out of college, she had the kind of beauty that drew people to her like moths to a flame. Her brown skin glowed under the park lights, her hair a stunning mix of purple and pink that cascaded over her shoulders. Little pink hearts adorned her cheeks, and a ribbon of color stretched across her nose. But it wasn't just her beauty that made her special. Her eyes, big and almond-shaped, seemed to capture the hearts of everyone who saw.
Discover the magic of the Park of Secrets. Step into a world of wonder with the Park of Secrets, a heartwarming tale by Ariel Williams that will captivate your imagination. This enchanting story is now available exclusively on Lulu Books.
The Future, Daughters of Liberty, A New Dawn. In 2040, the United States was a fractured nation, still reeling from the fallout of Project 2025, the catastrophic policy that had allowed a resurgence of systemic oppression. The Deep South had seceded once more, forming the antebellum republic, where human trafficking, racial inequality, and gender oppression became tragically normalized. The Second Civil War erupted as the rest of the nation sought to free those trapped in this dystopian regime. After years of bloodshed, Kamala Harris had finally led the Union to victory, restoring a fragile sense of hope. But the battle scars ran deep, especially in places like Louisiana, where the remnants of a broken society still lingered.
Get your digital copy today at lulubooks.com and experience the adventure in EPUB or PDF format. Make sure you have a compatible reader to dive into this unforgettable journey. Don't miss out, unlock the secrets, and let the story begin.
A Dying Planet, The Last Harvest.
In the year 2060, Earth is a shadow of its former self, choked by pollution, endless concrete, and abandoned by nature. Only a small fishing village by the sea has managed to preserve the planet's last untouched forest. In this dying world, June and Win, two young girls and the last children in their village, cling to the remnants of hope and innocence. Win roams the forest, collecting the season's last harvest, while June sings songs that echo with a haunting beauty through the village.
Get your digital copy today at lulubooks.com and experience the adventure in EPUB or PDF format. Make sure you have a compatible reader to dive into this unforgettable journey. Don't miss out, unlock the secrets, and let the story begin.
I told you. What did I tell you? Didn't I tell you? 'Cause I told you. And when did I tell you? A long time ago. And what did I say will happen when I told you? Exactly what just happened.